Now, normally when we talk about something hidden under the ice, we're referring to Antarctica, right? Not tonight. Scientists stunned to discover what's hidden under the ice in Greenland. Let's go.
Throughout history, our planet has been through multiple ice ages and fully covered in ice at least twice. From the poles to the equator, the Earth was a giant snowball at least several times. Today, the landscape has transformed. The ice is starting to rapidly melt, and scientists are wondering what secrets could be concealed beneath this frozen tundra. This is the second largest ice sheet on Earth. It has an impressive thickness of nearly 2 miles, covering 80% of the area of Greenland. Here, rapid glaciers like Jakobshovin move at an astonishing 150 feet per day, reshaping the landscape, while coastal waters create icebergs towering 300 feet, about the height of the Statue of Liberty. But these things are not what makes the island unique. To this day, the frozen surface hides all kinds of secrets, but scientists have already started uncovering some of them, and what they found was difficult to predict. Although Greenland is over 3 times the size of Texas, its total population is just 56,000 people, the lowest population density in the world. Frigid temperatures make the majority of the island uninhabitable. But along the southwest coast, the warming effect of the Gulf Stream results in moderate temperatures, creating a comfortable habitat. That's where the third of the population resides. In the central part of Greenland, temperatures remain below zero at all times. The snow there never melts, gradually accumulating instead. When new snow falls on the Greenland ice sheet, it's initially light and fluffy, with a density of about 50 to 70 kilograms per cubic meter. As it gets covered with new layers, all this weight compresses the layers below, increasing their density. At a depth of over 260 feet, air bubbles within the snow cannot compress any further, and snow solidifies into glacier ice. In total, there's 695,000 cubic miles of ice in Greenland, which is thought to have been there for hundreds of thousands to millions of years. But Greenland wasn't always frozen. Beneath its icy cover lies a colossal rocky island that was once a flourishing haven where life thrived amidst valleys, rivers, and numerous lakes. Even today, not all of Greenland is ice-covered. Moving to the southernmost reaches of Greenland, there's the Chingwa Valley, the only forested area on the island. As temperatures continue to rise, it's possible that this green patch of land will trigger the spread of vegetation to other parts of the island, gradually making it green again. In 1966, US military scientists drilled through nearly a mile of ice in northwestern Greenland, discovering a once green past. They found twigs, leaves, and unique, perfectly preserved fossil plants. Scientists describe their state as freeze-dried. If you pour some water on them, they'll unfurl, looking almost as if they were frozen just yesterday. About 400,000 years ago, parts of Greenland had spruce forests and tundra, a flat, cold and windy area without trees, but with resilient, low-lying plants. Today,
on one hand, this is exciting. You know, the history that could be up under this ice that we could be about to figure out, find out, information we will gather and obtain all up under this ice. On one hand, that's a great thing. On the other hand, I'm terrified of what could be released. You know, certain things could have been frozen, certain type of diseases and viruses and different things like that. And when that ice melts, those glaciers melt and it's released back into the atmosphere and spreads, it could be something that could wipe a good amount of us out. So you kind of torn with the history, but I think the other alternative is much worse.
All this serves as a time capsule, allowing us to peek into Greenland's ancient ecosystems. Greenland's thick ice sheets act as an insulator. The ground beneath remains shielded from the frigid temperatures and winds above. Meanwhile, the Earth's internal heat warms the ground from below. In some areas, the ice sheet is firmly attached to frozen ground, providing stability. But closer to the edges of the ice sheet, where it's thinner, the base has thawed and the ice is laying over a moist soil. If there's enough water beneath, it can make the ice flow faster, and this more rapid flow rate can potentially accelerate melting rate. Currently, the ice sheet in Greenland melts away at a rate of over 200 billion tons per year, enough to fill almost 91 million Olympic swimming pools, which hold 660,430 gallons of water each. And if it melts entirely, the global sea level will rise approximately 23 feet, causing devastating damage to millions of people who live along the world's coasts.
Whoa.
According to a study made in 2019, around 680 million people reside in low-lying coastal regions. By 2050, this number could surpass well over 1 billion. Right now, Greenland loses...
I hate to hear that. That means we might have to start trying to push inward. And I don't want to get any closer to Yellowstone than I have to. You know what I'm saying? Yellowstone is my only reason for not wanting to go inland anymore. But you can't be close to the coast talking like that.
more ice than it accumulates, although it will probably take a long time for all the ice to melt. The staggering magnitude of the ice sheet is hard to grasp. Its weight has built so much pressure that it led to a depression in the central part of the island 1,000 feet below sea level. And the same thing happened about 20,000 years ago. A colossal weight pushed parts of Earth lower into the crust. Ice sheets were all over the world. Scandinavia, the Arctic, and a large part of the USA and Canada were all covered in ice. And currently, something interesting happens to these areas. Think of our planet's surface as a massive shape memory mattress. Press down on it and it'll compress, but once you remove the pressure, it'll slowly start to go back to its initial form. In a similar way, as ice sheets shrink, the land under the ice rises, while the neighboring territories adjust by sinking. This process is very slow, and some regions are still recovering, while others, like the United States East Coast, will continue sinking for thousands of years. Compared to other parts of the Earth, regions like these are at much higher risk of higher sea levels. Today, Greenland is anything but green, but scientists have already been able to have a look underneath its ice cover, revealing what the island's been hiding for centuries. In 2013, a new canyon was discovered. It's over 460 miles long, 6 miles wide, and about 2,600 feet to escape into the ocean. The island's icy veil doesn't only hide a mysterious past, but also a rich reservoir of natural resources. Geological surveys suggest the presence of rare earth elements and precious metals. Elements found in Greenland's bedrock, such as neodymium, dysprosium, and europium, are critical in the production of modern electronics, renewable energy technologies, and different high-tech applications. The island's subglacial terrain could also harbor precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum. But also there's water, and a lot of it. Locked within the vast expanses of the Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets, it holds more than 68% of the Earth's freshwater supply. Greenland's unique geological features hold massive potential for geothermal energy development, a sustainable alternative to traditional energy sources. The idea is to harness heat from the Earth's interior that escapes to the surface. The process is known as heat flow, and the area along Greenland's west coast shows heat flow 3 times higher than the island's average. Unlike fossil fuels, geothermal power generation produces minimal greenhouse gas emissions. Perhaps one day, Greenland will be humanity's ticket to a carbon-free lifetime. All this makes Greenland a treasure trove of valuable resources, but it's also a place where Mother Nature reveals just how creative it can be. In 2010, scientists stumbled across peculiar formations beneath the Greenland ice sheet. At first, they thought these might be ghost mountains, like those found in Antarctica, but as it turned out later, they were wrong. Known as jelly roll sculptures, they are icy formations as big as Manhattan skyscrapers, and there are dozens of them in Greenland. Just imagine how vast the space between the island's icy cover and its bedrock should be to fit something this massive. The gigantic features are made of an unusual ice. It doesn't consist of layers, but it's rather twisted or rolled, and it can be as old as 120,000 years. Using radar imaging, researchers discovered that jelly roll sculptures can be found just below Greenland's white landscape. The island was long considered like a layered cake, but one that's made of snow. Although as you go deeper, peeling off layer after layer, at some point they are no longer flat. The ice down there looks more like it's been bent or folded several times. Now, there's a lot of science behind how that happens. But in simple terms, ice grows from the bottom up when the ice sheet melts and refreezes. It's somewhat like building a sandcastle. The wet sand you pour solidifies at the base, adding substance to the lower layers. Similarly, the refrozen ice adds to the layers, creating a complex, folded structure beneath the seemingly flat surface that's been forming for hundreds or even thousands of years. But deep below the mighty ice sheet, there's something much, much older. Back when Greenland was still a temperate rainforest, the island was struck by an asteroid 0.9 miles across. The impact was probably millions of times more powerful than an atomic bomb, enough to cause earthquakes of magnitude 9 and massive wildfires. Luckily, it all happened after the dinosaurs had already gone extinct, and long before the first humans. The asteroid left behind what's known today as a 19-mile wide Hiawatha crater, which is currently sitting below 3,000 feet of ice.
We walk around every single day like that can't happen to us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. You always hear things like NASA's working on a way, or they have a way to kind of divert maybe a meteor, but an asteroid? We talking about something that's catastrophic, an asteroid. So just hearing that just triggers me a little bit sometimes.
Hiawatha crater, which is currently sitting below 3,000 feet of ice. Discovered in 2018, its location played a significant role. The crater is lying under the northwestern edge of the ice sheet. The flowing stream from below the sheet contained sediments that suggested they were once exposed to rapid and extreme heating. By studying sand grains, researchers determined just how long ago the impact took place. A mind-blowing 58 million years ago. Greenland stands as one of the Earth's most extraordinary landscapes, guarding the mysteries of our planet's past. We've barely scratched the surface of this barren terrain, but in years to come, countless studies will be conducted, and who knows what other secrets may lie dormant beneath the vast expanse of ice, waiting to be unveiled. What secrets might the almost alien expanse of land hide? Clues to our planet's future, extraordinary species of animals, or even a long-lost civilization? Let us know in the comments section below. Stay tuned for more thrilling discoveries about the fascinating world we live in, and thanks for watching.
What if the past was very different from what we were taught in history lessons? What if incredible creatures once lived on Earth that test our imagination to the limit? If all the adventurous myths and legends are true, and the evidence is there for everyone to see? There are people who are convinced of an incredible theory. The world has been rebooted several times over the course of time, and
What does that sound like to y'all? That sounds like a simulation, right? A simulation can be rebooted. If things start to go wrong, that's outside of the norm, you restart. It's just like a computer, correct?
Knowledge of this shocking truth has been deliberately erased. Created in 1587, Urbano Monti's map is still overshadowed by huge question marks to this day. In a nutshell, the historical puzzle can be summarized as follows. How could the Italian depict something that he couldn't even know existed? Among other things, the map shows us the North Pole and the ice-free Antarctic, even though both areas were not officially discovered and explored until centuries later. We also see a mysterious land bridge that connects Antarctica with South America. But how is this possible? How did Monti manage to depict the world so comprehensively when there were actually still so many blank spots on the maps? The ice-free Antarctic is by no means the only mystery that has crept onto this ancient document. No, fantastic creatures such as centaurs and unicorns also catch our eye. No less strange are the images of sea monsters, hybrid creatures, demons, and dragons. In view of this, one could be forgiven for thinking that we are dealing with the fictional work of a creative fantasy author. And most conservative experts agree that Urbano Monti's map is just that, a depiction that randomly mixes science with adventurous myths and legends. But what if it wasn't true? What if all these incredible creatures were real and people knew exactly about their existence? Fasten your seatbelts because things are about to get particularly freaky. Was the Earth really rebooted? Urbano Monti's map is part of a theory that is very unusual, to say the least. This theory is based on the conviction that the world in the 16th century looked completely different from today's world. To reinforce this hypothesis, its proponents repeatedly consult enigmatic artifacts that simply cannot be placed in a plausible context and are therefore dismissed as nonsense by mainstream historians.
Nonsense.
However, this is not purely objective expert assessment, but a deliberate manipulation. According to this, the hidden string pullers know exactly what breathtaking things once took place on our planet, but they are doing everything they can to prevent the public from learning the historical truth.
Now, I believe that. I believe that they do know a lot more than they let on. And reason being is control.
But in order to understand this truth, we would first have to abandon a concept that is actually considered sacrosanct. Our understanding of time and history has nothing to do with reality. For example, the highly controversial reboot theory states that before the colonial era, a drastic event took place that literally reset the Earth. The planet was ravaged by something very powerful, either aliens or an advanced high-tech civilization. Australia was literally burned to the ground and turned into an arid desert, and the same is said to have happened in the Sahara and Antarctica. But one nuclear winter later, the South Pole found itself under a massive layer of ice. The fact that there is no trace of the creatures depicted on the map today is again due to the fact that the centaurs, unicorns, and company were wiped out as part of the devastating apocalypse. After the last traces of the old world had been erased, 2 bloody world wars decimated the landscapes of Europe and Asia. The idea, which has no scientific basis, is that someone or something is restarting the planet over and over again. Accordingly, what is described in the Bible as the Great Flood was actually just the earthly reset button being pressed. However, as the last reset was several centuries ago, some people believe that the next restart is imminent. What do these inexplicable hieroglyphs reveal? The mortuary temple of Sathos is home to one of the most unusual Egyptian engravings ever. While the eponymous pharaoh was in power from 1290 to 1279 BC, he was also the father of the legendary Ramses II. In retrospect, Sethos I is best known for his military campaigns and his breathtaking building projects. However, the excellently preserved mortuary temple of Abydos is adorned with some depictions that simply do not make sense. Here we see structures that look like airplanes, helicopters, submarines, and even spaceships. But how can these mysterious hieroglyphs be explained? Well, that depends on who you ask. Conventional Egyptologists say that we are not dealing with real things here, but with symbolic representations. In fact, the hieroglyphs are not as strange as they first appear. What at first glance looks like a helicopter is actually 2 different pictographs. In fact, the scientists even managed to translate the original message on the temple wall. He who beats back the 9 enemies of Egypt. At a later date, however, the hieroglyphs were changed and have since read, "He who protects Egypt and conquers foreign lands." However, it is not really surprising that the images are interpreted somewhat differently in more alternative circles. They are convinced that the depictions are exactly what they appear to be at first glance, ultra-modern technologies brought to Earth by aliens at the time. Since ancient humans were regularly visited by extraterrestrial intelligences anyway, this is the only logical conclusion. In turn, the mystical beings that had miraculously come to Earth from the heavens were worshipped as divine beings. When Enoch was abducted by aliens. And while we're on the subject of extraterrestrial gods, the Bible is also said to go on and on about UFOs and aliens. Would you like an example? In the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel, it says, "A storm wind came from the north, a great cloud of flickering fire, surrounded by a bright glow. From the fire it shone like bright gold. In the middle of it appeared something like 4 living creatures. Each of the living creatures had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and their feet were the feet of the bull. I looked at the living beings. Beside each of the 4, I saw a wheel on the ground. They looked as if they were made of chrysolite." What the theological interpretation calls the apparition of God is interpreted in other series as an uncanny encounter of the third kind. In fact, some people have even set out to use the details described in the Bible to make a sketch of the supposed spaceship. However, the prophet Ezekiel was not the only one to confuse extraterrestrial life forms with the heavenly figures. No, Enoch also experienced something very similar, with the small but significant difference that his story was almost completely banned from the biblical canon. But let's stick with the official version for now. In Genesis 5, we read, "The entire lifetime of Enoch was 365 years. Enoch had gone his way with God. Then he was no more, for God had taken him up." But how did this happen? Leaving aside the extraordinary lifespan, why did God decide to take Enoch in? Perhaps a look at the New Testament will shed some light on this. The letter to the Hebrews states, "Because of faith, Enoch was caught up and did not have to die. He was no longer found because God had caught him up. Before the rapture, he received the testimony that he pleased God." Well, and that's basically it. Apart from a few other mentions that reveal nothing about the actual story of Enoch, the Holy Scripture...
That type of faith, I feel like a lot of people strive to have. That unwavering faith. You know? Think about it. And today, what do you place your faith in that much? I'll be honest with you, it ain't too much around me other than close-knit wife, kids that I trust. Outside of that circle, that faith is thin. But the world does that to you. The world constantly beats you up to the point to where you don't have that faith. So, yeah, that type of faith is to be admired.
Scriptures provide us with no further information. However, things are a little different when we close the official Bible and stick our nose into the mysterious Apocrypha instead. In these writings, which the church rejects, we learn in great detail what Enoch experienced before his rapture, and who he may have actually met. First of all, there are the apostate angels. They come to earth, take the women as their own, and sire gigantic descendants with them, the Nephilim. However, as they cause bloody chaos on earth, God decides to wipe out the giants with a severe deluge and throw the angels into the lake of fire on Judgment Day. But when the angels learn of their fate, they ask Enoch to plead with God for mercy on their behalf. However, the Creator sticks to his decision, and again it is up to Enoch to deliver the message.
Reset.
During his subsequent journey to heaven, the biblical figure is given a comprehensive insight into the 7 heavens. These include paradise and hell, the choirs of angels, and in the 7th and highest heaven, the throne of God. Once there, Enoch is given the task of writing down everything that the Lord of the worlds dictates to him. In this way, he produces 360 books containing the secrets of heaven and earth and the creation of the world. Back on earth, Enoch tells his sons what he has experienced and exhorts them to live a God-fearing life. In the end, the divine messenger was taken up to the highest heaven and was never seen again. But why is it that some people associate Enoch's story with extraterrestrials? Well, quite simply, what is described in the books of Enoch as the rapture was actually an alien abduction. That's right, the supposed angels were nothing other than aliens, and the 7 heavens that Enoch saw were the impressions he received during the flight with the spaceship. The uppermost heaven, therefore, embodied the home planet of the extraterrestrial beings, while God was the commander-in-chief of the UFO fleet.